And our next guest's group was targeted by the IRS, and she says getting rid of the tax man would be in everyone's best interest. And we are joined by Scottie, Nell, Hughes of the Tea Party News Network. Thank you for being with us, Scottie. Now, I think you Tea Party guys are pretty brave here, because for the IRS to have explicitly gone after targeting Tea Party and conservative groups, and for those groups now to turn around and argue for abolishing the IRS, seems pretty gutsy.
Well, that is one thing the Tea Party is known for, is for our guts. There's no doubt. But the key is we want to do what is right. And what has happened these past few years is completely wrong. And we don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat that's ahead of this administration. We want to make sure that in the future we do not have these same types of targeting happening.
These same types of targeting, right. Well, what are you thinking about the progress that Congress is making in investigating the IRS scandal and getting to the real bottom of it, or actually the real top of it?
Well, the real top of it, the key is we still don't know how high this actual latest scandal goes. But in reality, I happen to agree with Ted Cruz that we should abolish the IRS. That's what we should do. Will we? Of course not. Because truly the IRS has become the army of fear for the Obama administration. Just like with our immigration bill, we are sitting there and punishing those legal citizens who fight literally every April 15th to make sure that they have their taxes in, while those who maybe don't pay their taxes, it's not as big of a deal for them because they're harder to fight down, despite having 16,000 more employees now working for the IRS.
Well, you know, the IRS surviving may have less to do with the Obama administration and more to do with the idea that any government agency once created fights for its life like a living, breathing organism and never lets you put it out of business. You know, conservatives have been trying to kill the Department of Education for like 30 years.
Well, of course, and that's the one bad thing about Washington, D.C. It's like once you're in the Beltway, you can't escape. And the only place that's had economic growth since Obama's become president has become Washington, D.C. While the rest of America is hurting, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to pay our tax bills, especially when they're as complicated as they are. So once again, we would love to see the IRS broken down, and let's do an idea of a fair tax across the board. But more importantly, right now as we're sitting here and we're hearing all of these congressmen and senators screaming for the abolishment of the IRS, why don't we instead, where are they screaming for, hey, why don't we make sure this doesn't happen again? Why don't we start making sure that there's laws put in place right now to make sure that no groups in the future are targeted regardless of what their political or religious beliefs are?
Right. Now, you were delayed, I believe, for more than 2 years, and you still haven't gotten your tax-exempt status. Now, one effect of all of that IRS scrutiny is that a lot of these groups ended up kind of being neutralized out of the presidential campaign. Do you think that was an unintended consequence of the IRS crackdown, or do you think it was a goal of the IRS crackdown to neutralize conservative groups and keep them out of the election?
Well, like we want to trust our government, and we want to make sure that we want to believe in the fact that America is good and the people running our country is good. The reality of this situation is that it did diminish the people being able to give to our organizations, or those conservative organizations that try to promote the conservative cause and the candidates we believe in. So we know that it did have an effect on the 2012 elections. We also know that it took a lot of time and resources away from those of us that were trying to actually get on the campaign trail. And instead, we were having to sit there and worry about answering questions like who our donors were and what exactly did we use and what legislators did we talk to. That was time wasted, when in reality we know that it was because of who we were now, and instead of sitting there and screaming that we were conspiracy theorists, we were actually people speaking the truth.
Yeah, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. Thanks for being with us today, Scottie, Nell, Hughes of the Tea Party News Network.
Thank you.